Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news from all over the country here. All of a sudden, we haven't heard anything about roller coasters in like months. And then over the last 24 hours,
A
like
lot of weird news too.
weird news, big stories breaking. So we got three big stories here. One about Intimidator at Carowinds, one about possibly Fast and the Furious at Universal Orlando. And the final one was, oh shit, now I forgot. What was it?
Snake River Expedition.
No, not that one. We're gonna talk about a separate show. There's no more.
Well, that happened too.
Yeah, that happened too. It's a separate show though.
The
Uh,
Skyrush. We got Skyrush.
Skyrush, the
Yeah,
seats. Yeah, so
there's
there we
all
go.
sorts of stuff. It's like everybody decided to just drop their news this week, like the last week of February. It's like,
Right?
oh, we're gonna close Volcano now.
Like
So
I want this news to launch on leap year for some reason. So let's
you
start
know
with
what's you know what's funny? You're wearing a King's Dominion shirt because we're gonna talk about this Intimidator stuff, and this is exactly how they announced that Volcano was closing years ago.
right. They just say, okay,
It's
done.
like
So
they buried it on like a Friday night in the middle of February, right?
which is like crazy to me because like if we start looking at like Shockwave was like I just happened to wear this like randomly today. I've been wearing it all day. But Shockwave is by far one of the worst roller coasters I've ever been on in my entire life. I don't think there's a lot of people besides Devin Olson that absolutely love that ride. Um, that it's by far at the bottom of my list. And here, like they just closed Volcano, up and closed Volcano for no reason. Like, oh, we're not opening it back up. And then so anyway, so we found out this week that they are finally, after years of speculation, maybe. I think we kind of hinted at this maybe 5 years ago, or quite some time ago, that they were gonna drop the Intimidator name from both I-305 and I-232. And that's what I call it. I know other people don't call it that, but I call it I-232. Why not? So they are dropping the name at both parks, getting rid of the NASCAR theme, getting rid of Dale Earnhardt, um, getting rid of the Intimidator name. Carowinds has already said what their new name is. And Danny, I don't know if it's any better.
Carhawk.
Not Carhawk, although
Carhawk. Well, okay, so let's
Carhawk I might have been able to go with, maybe. I don't know.
now if you would have told us, okay, Cedar Fair is going to rename Intimidator, you knew that it was either going to have the word Timbers, Hawk, or Striker in it because you've got about a 65% chance over the last 10 years that a new roller coaster or a renamed roller coaster is going to have one of those or a ride. I mean, we've got rides that are not roller coasters. We've got
Yeah.
Soaring Timbers. We've got Mystic Timbers. We already had Shivering Timbers. We've got
Yeah.
Twisted Timbers. We've got Yukon Striker, Gold Striker. And now we have Thunder Striker. And
And
by the
in
way,
fairness,
we
don't
already have two
discount
Thunder Hawks.
don't I was gonna say don't discount Thunder being used in the name either. So
Well, that's the thing. We've got Thunder Hawk in a couple of spots, right? We
yeah,
have Thunder Rapids at seemingly every
yeah.
park.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah, you had
Thunder
Thunder
Creek,
Road at Carowinds at one point.
Dorney Park has Thunder Rapids and Thunder Creek Mountain. Or is it Thunder Creek Mountain or is it Cedar Creek Mountain? I don't know.
Who
It's we
knows?
have,
Who
we have
knows?
oh Creek is another good one, right?
Creek is
Um,
another one.
but
So
and let's be honest here. The next time when Cedar Point builds their big GCI coaster eventually that we all want and are never going to get, they
yeah.
might just call that one Thundering Timbers. So
Thunder
free name idea right there for you. To your
So,
point.
so might we say that this might be a Cedar Fair All-Star coaster, Thunder Striker? Like this name is like,
I'm surprised it's not spelled with a Y instead of an I, just to be weird. Like,
yeah.
because honestly, with the quality of that logo, and that's this
Well,
some
and that's the other
with the
issue, isn't
quality
it?
of that logo, Striker ought to be spelled with a Y because then there is no doubt that it was assigned, the logo and name task was assigned to a 16-year-old intern on a drunk weekend. Like that's what has happened here.
I liked on the pre-show we were talking about, and I think you said that it's like something you would do on like PowerPoint using, word art. And doing that myself, that most of our YouTube thumbnails are done in exactly that fashion. um
Well, I mean, look at I mean, we just dropped the Thrilling 32 selection show last week. I
uh-huh.
mean, if you go look and the fonts that I use when I send them to you, you don't always have the same fonts, so the
Yeah.
logos look a little bit different in the show. But
Yeah.
like, if you go back and look at the Thrilling 32 logos over the year, those are better than what this came up with. And that's just using the word art and the glow and the shadow and the emboss effect on Microsoft Office. Like, we're not even using
Oh,
Photoshop or GIMP or anything here.
and
And
just
we
the
could have
look
come up
of
with
the
a better thing.
just the look of the font is like very Comic Sans-y almost. Like it's an unlikable font. And then you
You,
add in the color scheme is also somewhat unlikable. Nothing really
you want to
pops.
know what it you know what it almost reminds me of like Arial Rounded because there's an
Yeah.
Arial font that is rounded. There's another I'm scrolling through because I just happen to have the Thrilling 32 PowerPoint open, but there's another one that's got like the drippiness to it that's kind of weird that it really reminds me of. I'm
And
struggling to
then
find it at the
and
moment,
then I
but
don't understand like the shape behind it with like the like with the text in front of it, and then you get the old school car. I kind of get that. That's a harkening back to the old Thunder Road. Like I get that.
sure.
There's nothing I really like about it. There's nothing. It's not something that I'm like, oh wow, that's a really cool logo. And I think for one of the signature rides in your park, maybe do a little better. I don't know. Like I can live with the name. I can really live with the name Thunder Striker. It's stupid because
Yeah.
what the hell is a Thunder Striker? I guess Thunder Strike. Yeah, I don't know. But it's the logo that really offends me more because I'm like, even if I want to get behind the name, I can't now because I'm never buying anything with that logo on it. Like that's not happening at all.
Well,
Um,
and the colors are weird here too,
they're
right? Because
muted. They're all muted colors. It's like the car's not even all the way black. It's like gray. Like I don't know if they're trying
but
to.
Andy, you're forgetting why this is. You're forgetting why this is because Intimidator has pulled an accelerator, and where it started as bright red, it is now faded to a muted red, which is basically a coral pink. And that's what color the ride is right now. And the color of that little emblem in the back, which is like not quite the Chevy logo
Yeah,
and not quite the Buick logo, like
yeah,
not quite any of the,
yeah.
but it kind of looks like a car emblem. And it's like that muted pinkish coral color,
And
which
it's
the
like
track
they're
now
almost.
is because it's been sitting in the sun for
It's
14
almost
years.
like they made the logo knowing that we're not repainting this ride. We're just gonna let the faded colors roll and let it go. I don't know. I think it's
And they're gonna keep the supports gray, like they're gonna
yeah.
because gray doesn't really fade. Gray becomes lighter gray, and the trains are gonna stay black and gray, and maybe they'll put some like yellow accents on it. But
So the same thing's happening to I-305 at King's Dominion, although they have not gone all in on what they're doing. They're doing a little teaser campaign with Project 305. There is some hope there that they tie it into Flight of Fear and tie it into like a jungle expedition a little bit more. Maybe try
yeah,
and tie the
there's
whole
really
land together.
there's really two options, right? I mean, people have been saying for a while, and even the park said the Jungle Expedition was going to be like a multi-phase thing. So people have always thought, okay, well, eventually they'll pull I-305 into that and maybe give it like a cheetah theme or
Or
something like that.
how about you give it a space name and call it Polaris?
Well, yeah, well, that's the
That's
other side of it is like, are they going to do like what they did with Orion at Kings Island, where they gave it a space theme and just have that be its own little area? It's weird because like right now, Flight of Fear, I-305, and Backlot are all still technically part of Jungle Expedition, and
yeah,
Anaconda kind of fits into that, but
yeah. The
and
only one.
they changed Avalanche into Reptilian and that's okay, so that's fine. But they
Did we
added two
find out that
D.
they're getting a coaster back there too? Was there a rumor about what they're getting?
It's they're talking about this wing coaster.
Okay.
It's the
Oh,
wing coaster again. Now it's now
hold
I
on.
think
Didn't we say that years ago? Didn't we say
we said
this?
that We said that, yeah, we said that 5 years ago. Like, if you go back to the show where we talked about
Yeah.
Volcano being torn down, we probably speculated that at some point. And there were
Because I
rumors that
remember
one time
talking
it
about a
was gonna.
launched wing coaster at some point at King's
Well,
Dominion.
the original rumor was that it was gonna. The original rumor was that it was gonna be a near clone of like the Hot Go Park model without the helix,
Oh yeah.
and then that became somewhere along the line that became a launched wing coaster with a similar layout. And I don't know. I mean, it'd be simple enough to make it some sort of bird theme or whatever, and I-305 would fit well into like a cheetah theme or some sort of fast animal theme, I guess. That leaves Flight of Fear kind of high and dry with what that's going to be. But the way Cedar Fair has been cutting costs, there's nothing saying that Flight of Fear doesn't come out in 5 years
Well,
or less.
that honestly, that there's no, there's no guarantee there. So at least we don't have a final decision on I-305 yet, and hopefully we see something. I kind of think it might be space theme with the Project 305. It kind of reminds me of the whole Orion Project X crap right next to
Yeah,
Flight of
that's
Fear, so I
true.
feel like it might be space themed. Um, I don't know
Well,
if you have to return.
considering I-305 is just out in the middle of a field, not a
Yeah,
not a tree near it.
yeah.
That
So
that would make some sense.
true. So moving on to our next story, the quicker one. Let's talk about Fast and the Furious. This is the one that just hit the internet like yesterday, and a lot of people started speculating on Fast and the Furious at Orlando closing. Um, some people are saying it's just for maintenance, and some people are saying no, this is for good. I'm not leaning on either side yet, although I will say I have never been on it. I don't think I ever will go on it.
I've
Even
been on it once, and that was too many
and
times.
even kids that I talk to constantly in school who have been to Universal and have been on it are like the one person was saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to Universal Hollywood." I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna miss the Fast and the Furious ride there." And they're like, no, I went out in Orlando. I'm not missing anything." And I'm like, "No, no, this one's a roller coaster." Like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, yeah,
So,
no, exactly right.
so it's absolutely everyone has said this is absolutely awful. It just opened when, like what, 20, good Lord, 2019, 2018, something like that.
Yeah, it's a couple years. Well, in Orlando, I think it was a couple years before COVID because they've.
Yeah.
I remember there's an episode of Impractical Jokers, if you know that show on True TV, where they were pranking people in the line of the Fast and Furious ride around all the cars and whatnot. And that I can honestly say that's the most fun I've had in relation to that ride is watching that episode of Impractical Jokers on True TV. Um, but
Holy
like,
shit. It opened in 2015.
was it that long ago?
It says opening date. Oh, that's Hollywood. Excuse me.
Okay.
2018. Okay. Because they're counting the bus ride in Hollywood. I forget they do that.
Oh yeah, because it was part of the tram because it's part
Yeah.
of the tram
So
tour.
it's 2018. That seems a lot more likely. That seems more in where April of 2018. So, um, no one likes this ride. They're building supposedly something a lot better in Hollywood already with an actual roller coaster because, good Lord, you have a movie franchise based on driving real fast cars and you put people on a bus? Like this is epic levels. I'm using the pun correctly here. These are epic levels of ineptitude displayed by Universal. And you've already heard me. If you've ever watched the show, you've heard me go off on Kong Skull Island and how stupid that. They also pulled the 3D off of that ride, completely neutering the whole point of the majority of that ride. So the only reason to ride that ride now is to see a giant monkey at the end.
Is
So
the-
the only reason to ride that ride. So that's
as
also
as
a
as
complete.
as someone well put it on the internet this afternoon, Fast and the Furious, that ride is not fun. It's family.
It's well true. It's like Fast and the Furious and Kong are on my list of stupid dumb things Universal did in the late teens for no reason whatsoever. Jimmy Fallon, some people like that ride. That's another one. It's just they got rid of Twister and
We
now
built a
Twister's
better ride in the 80s and Twitter 90, whenever Twister came out,
right.
whenever that ride came out. I mean, that
And I
ride was
get I
decades
get the
older.
whole area looks nicer with the NBC stuff and it's like cross promoting and all this bullshit. But Good
It looks
Lord.
more modern, but I kind of
Yeah.
like the old beat up Twister building
Well,
look.
but it just a string of bad decisions by Universal, where they finally came out of those bad decisions when they built Velocicoaster. And now Epic Universe looks like okay. Also, Universal announced the new kids area
Mm.
where I didn't know they were doing this. I didn't realize, like I knew they were taking away the kids area. I thought they were going to rebuild the whole thing. No, they're just retheming the whole thing. So I don't know if you saw the pictures of that today, but they're basically
No.
taking the Woody Woodpecker coaster and turning it to Trolls. All that whole area,
Oh, I knew that I knew that the Woody Woodpecker was going away.
but
I
it's
didn't.
not. It's just being repainted.
Well, right, but I knew the theme was going
Yeah.
away. I
I
just
knew the
didn't know
theme
what.
was going away. I thought they were just going to build a whole new land because like they're Universal and they have money. So why not just
Yeah.
build a whole new land? And that whole area in the back where I don't even know what that was themed to. It wasn't Barney was one part, but then you
Well,
had like all
Barney was back there at one point.
and then you had all those buildings back there with the
Isn't
water.
like Curious George back there?
Curious George was it. Now that's going to be the Kung Fu Panda section. So they're
Okay,
turning everything.
Well, Hollywood has the Kung Fu Panda Theater, and
Yeah.
that's a pretty decent
Yeah.
attraction. So,
And they're going to have like all the water features back there. It actually looks really cool. They're going to build a whole Shrek area too with the swamp and you're going to meet Shrek. So that's it actually looks
okay, and
like
they took out the Shrek ride to do Minions, so that makes sense.
yeah.
Shrek is still insanely popular.
Yeah. And it modernizes it where that I think that's a much needed addition for that part because nobody watches Woody Woodpecker. No,
No, nobody knows Woody Woodpecker.
Barney's been obsolete for 20 years now. And
I
Curious
mean,
George,
Barney was a thing when I was growing up,
yeah,
and even
exactly.
I was even a little late for Barney.
Yeah, and like that's like they really need to do something there. So that's probably the proper update of all that stuff. And then the
Yeah.
last story is Skyrush finally getting new restraints. And do we know what's happening there? We know they're changing
Yeah,
the
so
restraints.
so I did some digging today and I talked to multiple people. So it does look like the seats are basically the Velocicoaster seats, which now the interesting thing is those seats are on a bunch of different rides and they're set up a little differently. Like on rides like Velocicoaster and Terran and Taiga, you're high enough that your feet aren't touching the ground, right? So it's kind of like you're in a B&M hypercoaster in the clamshell where your feet aren't actually touching the ground unless you've got gorilla legs or you play in the NBA. Um, the Pantheon trains though, those seats are much lower and your feet's actually on the ground on rides like Pantheon, which is weird. I don't know why Pantheon's different. I don't know why those trains are so much
And I
different.
will
And
say
I wonder
that
if Tutatis is set up like Pantheon then.
on Pantheon, I had a lot more trouble fitting in that seat than Velocicoaster. I had like little trouble fitting in the seat.
Yeah.
And
So it,
Pantheon, like, but that's also Bush Williamsburg also has all their seats set to one extra click than every other park in in the industry. Like, I don't know what it is about that part because it's not the same way at like Tampa. It's only Williamsburg that every single ride there you have to get like an extra click versus everywhere else in the country. Makes no sense, but whatever.
yeah, and like I don't know why those seats are different. And what we don't know about Skyrush is which they are. We can only assume they're going to be the higher ones because someone did reach out to the park and the park confirmed that the four across and the wing seats are staying. It's not going to a two because some people thought when they said the station was being converted and
Yeah.
reconfigured that they were going to two across trains. And the park has said that's not what's happening. It's staying four across. They're keeping the wing seats. So we can only assume that they're going to be the higher up ones. But I guess maybe they don't have to be if they're still keeping the. So it makes me wonder if they're keeping the chassis and they're just bolting new seats on. But this is something we've been saying for years, right? We've been saying for years if you just rounded the bottom of those seats or the lap bars, you could still have them be comfortable and they could be set up the same way. And that's exactly what they did with rides like Terran and Pantheon and Taiga and Velocicoaster and Tutatis. So, they're
And
finally doing that. And I mean, this is a smart way, in my opinion, this is a smart way for Hershey Park to spend some of their maintenance budget.
well, and the other thing too is like I don't imagine that the two seating styles are that drastically different. Like they're both hydraulic, so you're not really it's not like going from Raptors OTSRs to Banshees hydraulic
Right.
OTSRs. Like you're completely changing the weight structure, you're completely changing the width, you're changing a whole lot of factors there between those two rides. But when you look at like this one, I imagine that they're gonna be pretty similar, right?
Yeah, I mean it stands to reason, even with the way they phrased it, like, oh, your seat is being upgraded or whatever, it
Yeah,
stands to reason that they're just bolting new seats onto the
yeah,
trains and chassis they already have.
yeah.
Um, which honestly, that can't be that expensive at some point, right?
Well, it's
I
just
mean,
like buying a new train. So how much does a train cost? Plus, you're only really buying half of it. So it's like buying half a new train, and they only how many trains does Skyrush run? Two or three?
this runs the two.
Just the two. So
Yeah, so you
it's only
you
like
get what?
buying one new train. Like
You get
Six Flags
64.
used to do that when they crashed them all the time. When they would just let the the Mindy Racer train roll right off the track. They had to make
Yeah, you get 64, you get 64 new seats. You take a
right.
couple of bolts off. And I
Just
mean, this is it's perfect too, because it's not even an extra step, right? Because the trains get disassembled every winter anyways.
yeah.
So the train's already apart. So when you reassemble the train, just bolt the new seats on. Like
And you could probably pay for it because there'll be jabronis out there that will want that seat, and you could raffle it off to somebody and probably make a
and
whole lot
they
of
were
money.
smart enough to change the logo. So now people are going to want merch with the new logo.
Yeah, exactly. Although, well, let's talk about that. Another, let's just change the font. Like, I really like the old Skyrush logo. Like, and we have it up here somewhere. I don't know where it's at. The old Skyrush logo, do you have the magnet by you right now? I can't reach it.
Do I have
Um,
one?
um,
I don't have a Skyrush one at the ready.
but the old Skyrush logo was really cool with the track behind it. Well, good Lord, let me get it. It's up here.
Yeah, mine's downstairs on the fridge.
Let me take my dark saber and see if I can knock it off the wall here. Oh, nice catch. Look at that. Look at that. So that is the old logo that you finally did there. And
Yeah.
the font is a little bubbly for me, but the font's okay because it has this whole background to it. It has all this cool
Well,
stuff going on,
and
and
and the font is supposed to look like fluffy clouds,
exactly. So it fits this. And the new font
not
is
like
just like
Thunder Striker.
no, and but I will say the Skyrush font is not much better, to be completely honest. It's just Skyrush with sky slightly above and the rush slightly below. And it's
It's
once
more
again,
modern.
well, it's very pedestrian, very blocky, and once again has like a gradient in it that kind of looks like it was done in PowerPoint word art.
Well, it's like someone did the emboss effect.
Actually, I'll give them one better. It doesn't look like it's done in PowerPoint word art. It looks there's a website I use called Cool Text Generator, and it
Oh
looks like
no.
one of the things out of Cool Text, basically. Like they just went to Cool Text and said, "Hey, this is our font. We want you to do this." Um, but that website's about 15 years old too. But like, come on, like this was a badass logo, and now
Great logo.
like I guess if you were to put all of this stuff with the new font style in front of it, I guess I could buy that,
Yeah.
but this is a really cool logo. This wasn't this in our tournament of logos that this is one of the best ones.
I believe it. I believe it did pretty well in our tournament of logos
Like
the last
it's
time.
not top 10, but it's up there. Like it's pretty cool. Like you got track all over the place. Who doesn't like track? Come on. So anyway, well, that's a lot of talking about fonts. Hopefully the people watching this program like fonts like we do. Um,
I guess. I
like
mean,
we talked a lot about fonts.
the weird thing about the original Skyrush logo is it never actually had yellow in it, right? Like it was just it
Yeah,
was different. It was like a blue
you
gradient.
added the yellow to this, which I think
Well,
popped it a lot better.
because the logo, like the track and the letters were just floating out in space, and I needed to make a
Yeah,
base piece to encapsulate it all. So I was like, well, the ride's yellow. I'll just make the base piece yellow and make everything else like I can't do the gradient like in the original logo from the light blue to the white in the letters. So I made the letters like that silky blue so that they had like a sky look to it. Like they're a silky light blue. They're almost like a periwinkle blue. And
yeah.
then I made the track a darker blue so that it contrasted with the yellow. And I don't know. I think that logo looks pretty damn good.
Looks pretty good. You probably should have sent this to them before they came up with the new one. Say, hey, just add a little yellow in it. You're okay. which they did, which I appreciate that they did add yellow to the text that they.
Right.
I
The
can't even
logo
call it a
actually
logo at
matches
this
the
point. They
colors of
added
the
it to the
ride.
text they presented to us,
Right. It actually matches the colors of the ride now,
right?
kind
And you can obtain one of these magnets if you join our Patreon. Oh, wait a minute. No, we canceled that. So you can't get those.
of.
Nope,
No, but
officially
if you
ended that
but if you
excursion.
send me an email and ask really really nicely, I may present some options to you as to
Yeah.
how to obtain
Yeah.
them.
There might be some options there, usually accompanied by cash would be
Or winning the thrilling 32.
or winning the thrilling 32 bracket challenge, that as well. So that is still open. So you can still enter into the thrilling 32 bracket challenge right now. If you haven't watched the selection show yet, what's wrong with you? Go watch the selection show. Figure out who is the top roller coaster.
Skyrush's old logo is in it.
Skyrush's old logo's in it. Thunder Strikers logo or I232's logo is not in it, so don't worry about seeing that one.
No, no upsetting X2 incorrectly this year.
Yeah, so there you go. That's our news roundup for the night here. As always, thank you for joining us here. I'm of course Andrew Barchak from Chicago, Illinois.
Nah, I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, right, Warriors.
You guys.